Solving one-step equations. Before we begin today's lesson, I want to go through some important vocabulary terms that you should become familiar with. First, solve and simplify. This means to find the answer in an equation. Let's look at some examples. Simplify the expression 2x equals 8. Solve the equation x plus 4 equals 12. In both of these examples, simplify and solve simply mean find the answer to our equation. The next important vocabulary term is inverse operation. Inverse operation is another way to say opposite operation. This term is important because when solving for an equation, you need to know what the inverse operation is. Let's look at some examples of what are inverse operations. Multiplication and division are opposites of each other, so they are inverse operations. Addition and subtraction are opposites of each other, so they are inverse operations. When solving equations, we always use the inverse operation to isolate our variable. The next important vocabulary term is variable. Variables are usually represented by a letter. In this example, x plus 3 equals 12. X is our variable. When solving equations, we isolate the variable. Isolate means to get something by itself. So when solving equations, I want you to remember. First, you want to isolate your variable. You isolate the variable by performing the inverse operation. Let's try a few examples. The first topic we're going to look at is solving using our addition property. When you have a subtraction problem, the inverse operation is addition, so we add to isolate the variable. Let's look at an example. Example number 1. X minus 7 equals 13. In this equation, x is our variable. Since we have a subtraction problem, we're going to use the addition property to isolate our variable, so we're going to add 7 to both sides. We then add 13 plus 7. This gives us 20. So our answer is x equals 20. Let's look at another example. Example number 2. X minus 4 equals negative 3. In this equation, again, it's a subtraction problem. So we will be adding, using the inverse operation, addition property, for solving for the equation. X is our variable. We add 4 to both sides. Negative 3 plus 4 is positive 1. So our answer is x equals 1. Remember, when you have a subtraction problem, the inverse operation is addition, and so we add to isolate our variable. In both of these examples, we simply added, and then we received our answer. Now we are going to look at solving using the subtraction property. When you have an addition problem, the inverse operation is subtraction, so we subtract to isolate the variable. Remember, the inverse operation is always the opposite, and addition and subtraction are opposites of each other. Let's look at some more examples. Example number 1. X plus 4 equals 10. Since this is addition and subtraction is the opposite, we're going to subtract to solve for our variable. Our variable is x. We're adding 4, so we need to subtract 4. 10 subtract 4 is 6, so x equals 6. X equals 6. Okay, let's look at another example. Example number 2. X plus 7 equals negative 2. Again, here we have an addition problem. The opposite of addition is subtraction, so we are going to subtract to isolate our variable. Our variable is x. We subtract 7. Negative 2 subtract 7 is negative 9, and so our answer is x equals negative 9. In both of these examples, they were addition problems. We use the subtraction property to solve for our variable because addition and subtraction are inverse operations. Okay, let's try multiplication and division now. We're first going to solve using the division property. When you have a multiplication problem, the inverse operation is division, so we divide to isolate our variable. Example number 1. 7x equals negative 21. When looking at 7x, you have to remember when a letter and a number are next to each other, it means multiply. So in this problem, we know we're going to use the opposite, which is division. So we are going to divide 7 to both sides. 7x, x is our variable. We divide by 7. Negative 21 divided by 7 is 3, negative 3. So our answer is x equals negative 3. Example number 2. Negative 3x equals 15. Again, negative 3 next to the letter x means multiply, so we're going to use division to solve for our x. Divide by negative 3 to both sides. 15 divided by negative 3 is negative 5, so our answer is x equals negative 5. Remember, when you have a multiplication problem, you have to divide. Solving using the multiplication property. Again, multiplication and division are inverse operations, so we use them against each other to solve for our variable. When you have a division problem, the inverse operation is multiplication, so we multiply to isolate the variable. Example number 1. X divided by 4 equals negative 12. Since this is division, we are going to make sure that we multiply. X is our variable. We're dividing by 4, so we need to multiply by 4. We multiplied by 4 on both sides. Negative 12 times 4 is negative 48, so our answer is x equals negative 48. Let's try another example. Example number 2. X divided by 5 equals 2. Since this is division, multiplication is our inverse, we need to make sure that we multiply 5 by both sides. 2 times 5 is 10, so our answer is x equals 10. So today we went over learning how to solve one-step equations. The main thing I want you guys to remember from today is that you always perform the opposite operation in order to solve for the variable. Hope you liked the lesson.